Welcome to the FullyCrypto Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the FullyCrypto Podcast, your home of quality cryptocurrency and blockchain news, reviews, opinion and more. My name is Mark Hunter, and with me is the man they call the influencer's influencer, the one and only Alex Mears.
Hi, how are you doing?
Have I painted an accurate picture of your
No, you haven't at all.
Your reputation was what I was looking for, your reputation.
I'm more the opposite. I'm nobody.
You're nobody, just ploughing a lone furrow in the world of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, exactly. I just write for Fully Crypto. That's all I do and do this podcast. That's me.
You're not getting into pre-sales and dumping on followers. You don't do any of that. That's not your bag.
No, it's not my job. Someone else's. It's BitBoys.
All right, well, for those of you who've listened to a couple of these already, this is our weekly kind of news roundup where we take one or two stories that have interested us and discuss them for the next kind of half an hour or so. Are you ready for that?
Can't wait, man.
All right, well, we're going to start this week with Mr. Bitcoin, the lord of the fraud himself, Mr. Craig Wright.
Boo.
Anyone that has read anything on our site before will know that we are not the biggest fans of Mr. Wright. We don't believe he is the creator of Bitcoin. We believe he's a liar and a fraud. And the courts generally have been on our side of opinion as far as that goes. And it seems yet again this week they agreed once more. Did you come across what happened this week?
I did. It's been a very interesting read, actually. I like this.
Yeah,
I mean, he deserves everything he bloody gets, this man.
The last 3 or 4 years, however long he's been getting involved in these lawsuits, the same themes keep coming up and up and up again. And it's the same thing repeating. This is all dating back to his case with the estate of his former Bitcoin mining buddy, Dave Kleiman. And this week, the judge in the case, Beth Bloom, which is a lovely name. I think I'd want my teacher to be called Mrs. Bloom, wouldn't you?
Oh, I bet she's hot.
See, I'm going for the more homely image of like gardening on a Saturday morning and stuff, real sleeves rolled up, cup of tea and a bit of gardening, but you've gone straight for the filth.
Exactly.
She has given 2 rulings, or a ruling on 2 motions for dismissal that both camps put forward for the case back in May. This case all began in February 2018 when the estate of Dave Kleiman, they sued Craig Wright for half of his Bitcoin holdings. What was it? What was the actual figure of the amount of Bitcoin they mined together?
1.1 million or something ridiculous.
That's it. Yeah, he did. It's over 1 million Bitcoin. So after Dave Kleiman died in 2013, I think it was, they allege that Wright faked documents and faked Kleiman's signature in order to get hold of all the Bitcoin and all the intellectual property that they kind of got together. Fast forwarding a few years on, the case started, it went through various kind of procedures. August 2019, the Kleiman estate was granted a motion to compel, which was what I thought, and I think you thought as well, Alex, was when Wright, we thought he'd lost the case at that point, didn't we?
Yeah, I thought it was the real deal. I didn't realise it was just like a warm-up.
Yeah, it kind of, this is all the pre-trial stuff. So the estate filed this motion to compel, which basically stops it going to court and resolves the case in their favour before it even gets any further. They were awarded by this judge. They were awarded half of the holdings as they asked for, and so we thought, great, job done. That's it, all finished. The following month after that judgment, Craig Wright began discussions with their estate over an alternative settlement because, as you pointed out, he hasn't got the Bitcoin to give them.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have the Bitcoin. If he was Satoshi, he doesn't have access to it, but he doesn't have access to it because he's not Satoshi, so he's being sued for Bitcoin he doesn't actually have in his pocket, so he's going to have to give them something else, isn't he?
Yeah, well, that was the whole point of this settlement discussions, was that I think they knew they weren't going to get it. They hoped they were going to get the Bitcoin, but if they didn't, they thought, well, we'll settle with him for a financial, fee, whatever it's going to be, and that will do the job. And they started these negotiations in September. Wright delayed it and delayed it further. And in November, he basically decided he couldn't afford to settle and broke the agreement, which then propelled it forward to the next stage towards an actual court case, an actual jury court sitting. But in the interim, he has done everything he can to stop it going to court. In May, he himself filed a motion to dismiss, So he basically shoved all this stuff at the judge and said, right, this case shouldn't go to court because CoinGeek, which of course, as we know, is Calvin Ayre's mouthpiece, they called it a bombshell filing. They were all up in arms about how fantastic it was and how it proved that Ira Kleiman's narrative that he was spinning was incorrect and rah, rah, rah. So the six things that Wright said meant the case shouldn't go any further were: the statute of limitations had expired, there was no proof of an oral partnership between Wright and Kleiman, the claims against Wright aren't valid under Florida's statute of frauds, we'll come to that later, the court does not have subject matter jurisdiction, Ira Kleiman lacks the authority to file on behalf of the partnership, and the plaintiffs, the Kleiman estate, have insufficient evidence to back up their case in general. So, those were the 6 things that Craig Wright and his team tried to put across to say why the case shouldn't go to court. The arguments that the Kleiman estate made were pretty simple. Their arguments against those were, no it hasn't, yes it does, yes they are, yes it does, yes he did, no we don't.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's all they had to do.
That's
pretty much what they said. They were like, no, yes, no. So all these things went forward to the court, to old Judge Bloom, and she finished her gardening for the day, and she uploaded to the court's website a 93-page judgment on these 6 points. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go through the what Craig Wright tried to argue and what the judge has said is her verdict in this case. So, on the subject matter jurisdiction and Ira Kleiman's right to file on behalf of the company. So, this relates to Craig Wright tried to involve his ex-wife Lynn, who he divorced in 2003, I think, or something along these lines. He argued that she was at the time and is still a shareholder in the company. And so you can't file on behalf of a company if you don't get all the shareholders' consent. So in filing on behalf of the company, the estate of Dave Kleiman had no right to file in the company name without consulting her first. However, and this is a theme, the court said that Wright failed to present credible evidence to suggest she's still a shareholder, or that Kleiman ever knew she was, so the 2 points are both rejected. Now, failing to present credible evidence. Does that ring a bell?
That is like Craig Wright all over.
Isn't it just? And that's not the first time we'll come across that reasoning from the judge. So that was dismissed. This statute of limitations, you're pretty aware of what that means in principle. So Craig Wright submitted this claim. He said that because the first ever judgment on this case was back in 2013 by an Australian court, so his argument is this all started in November 2013, therefore the statute of limitations has expired, this whole case should be null and void. He submitted insufficient evidence to back up his claims, and what he did provide was insufficient, or in some cases missing entirely.
Oh, God. So he's like just making crap up again, isn't he?
Yeah, he reminds me of Robert Dunlap from Meta One, where he just does not understand how to file something properly. What he was asking of the judge was to search through all his evidence to find the bits that supported her argument. And she was like, no, that's not my job. I'm not wading through your evidence to find stuff that backs up your case. That's your job, sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. He should be making it easier for her.
Yeah, so he didn't. She said it's nothing to do with that previous case, and even if it had been triggered back in 2013, the amount of potential fraud he's conducted would override that and make it irrelevant.
That's brilliant. So he's just shot himself in the foot, hasn't he?
Completely. He's conducted so much potential fraud, he's undermined one of his own arguments.
Oh, Craig.
Cracking stuff. So she then combines this, he was saying that there's no evidence of an oral partnership, and this issue of statute of frauds, which I've no idea what statute of frauds is, but anyway, she combined them into one. And what Wright was trying to claim was there was no evidence of an oral partnership between himself and Kleiman. And the judge said, no, there's plenty of evidence you're in a partnership, with all these phone conversations, all this written evidence, all these emails, texts, conversations you've had. There's so much evidence you were together that that's complete nonsense.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's been saying, oh yeah, we're in a partnership. No, we're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. It's like he's got split personalities or something. He's not level-headed, this man.
If you're so muddle-headed that you can't even file things properly, you can't even, like the judge was saying that he submitted a document that said something like, there's 2 attachments that prove that this is why this is true, and he only attached one of them. And it's basic stuff like that things like, it's like you're not concentrating on this, you're not doing it properly, you don't seem to care that much.
Yeah, he's doing a half-assed job.
Yeah, and it's crazy. So the other part of this is this statute of frauds that he was arguing that a part of this statute is that any action taken as part of an oral contract, which is what he was saying they had but they didn't have, has to take place within a year of the agreement. So his argument then is that, yeah, we had this agreement, but there was no stipulation of when it was going to go ahead, and it didn't happen in the year, so therefore it's null and void. He made 3 claims as part of this, and all 3 claims, the judge said, again, he's got no evidence to support this whatsoever. So yet again, there's this issue of no evidence. He also tried to claim that promises he made and broke, including a promising to pay the Kleiman estate $10 million, can't be considered fraud, because his argument was that if I say I'm going to do this for you and I don't do it, that can't be considered fraud if I don't do it. Oh. And the judge said again, that's for a jury to decide, and there's plenty of evidence to suggest you were committing fraud and you'd made every promise under the sun to do these things for them and then went back on it when it suited you.
Oh, he's just digging himself a deeper and deeper hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's saying these things on record, and then he's going against them later on. I mean, he needs to just remember what he said.
Yeah.
He's very clearly lying, and he's very clearly forgetting what he's lying about.
Yeah, I think it's part of it is a case where he has lied on so many occasions. He's forgotten maybe what the truth is, and he's forgotten what he's lied about to this point.
Yeah.
You hear people say that if they tell a lie on something so much, they convince themselves of that it's the truth, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. They believe it's the truth. So even if you do a polygraph on them, it shows up as it's the truth.
Yeah.
Because they've convinced themselves it is the truth. And that's what he's done here, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't understand. Like his arguments are so vague and so factually incorrect. Like he makes these claims that the judge seems bemused. She says she's like, how can you make this claim? No one ever said that. No one ever said that. No one's written that down. There's no evidence to support that whatsoever. It's a common theme that's been running through the entire case. So, of these 6 claims, guess how many were rejected?
I'm going to guess all of them.
All 6. Every single claim he made that he said proved it shouldn't go to court was rejected, one by one by one.
That's brilliant.
It's fantastic news. And then, on the other side of it, the Kleiman estate made 14 arguments of their own, pretty much arguing why it should go to court, and they fell into 8 categories. They were granted the motions on 7 of those 8 categories.
Wow.
The fact that Wright has said, I think this is true, and has been denied on 6 counts, and the fact that the Kleiman team have said, we think these 8 things are true, and they've been granted it on 7 counts, it just shows you which way the evidence goes, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, and it shows you which way the whole case is going to go.
It must do. It must do. I mean, I do think he's genuinely terrified of this thing going to court. He's doing all he can now to stop it going to court. The case is due, it's been delayed a few times, and it's now due to be heard in January 2021, so not all that far away, really.
Was it 4 months now?
Yeah.
Well, all of 4 months.
Yeah. So hopefully there's no more delays, and we get to see him. I can't wait to see what a jury is going to make of him. They're just not going to believe a word. Once they see the evidence is one thing, but if he gets on the stand, he's going to perjure himself, he's going to be belligerent, he's going to be boastful, he's going to undermine his own defence, isn't he?
But I guess it depends on who they pick as the jury. If they pick a jury that have no clue about anything to do with Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, he may be able to swing it in his favour.
He might, but I think the good thing about this case is that it almost could be about any asset. It could be about orange juice, because the concept is the same. The concept is fraud. One person says, you and this guy were in partnership together, made a lot of money, and then you're trying to claim all the money is yours. when actually there's proof that you said you were going to split it. And he's saying, no, there was never a partnership. It was all me. He had nothing to do with it. Or if he did have something to do with it, there's not enough evidence to support the fact that I said we were together. So it could be about any asset, really. All they've got to do is prove that he is lying. And
true.
They just need to wheel the evidence out, because up to this point, two judges have ripped him a new one on many occasions because of his lying.
Yeah, but then you got to think that the judges know what they're doing. They see this day in, day out, whereas the jury won't. They're just random people from the street.
Yeah, I mean, this is when it comes down to lawyers, isn't it? Because I'd imagine that Wright's lawyers are going to try and tie it all up and make it really complicated. Bring in all the Bitcoin related stuff.
Exactly.
Bring that in. Bring in all these things, because I also think the importance of motions like this, the importance of these kind of things, is that it all shapes what can and can't be submitted at trial. So I'm pretty sure if you try and claim something is true and it's rejected by, like in these motions, and the judge rejects it, can you then take that to court as evidence? Or
I honestly don't know. It's very different here in Europe.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know.
But you'd imagine that's the case, wouldn't you? You'd imagine that.
Yeah, it would make sense. If you don't bring it forwards in the pre-trial, then you can't bring it forwards at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. When you get to court,
that would be the logical thing.
It would, but when you get to court, does anything that's happened before matter? Because the jury aren't allowed to have any knowledge of it. So I'd imagine when it gets to the court stage, it's all about kind of packaging up the evidence, isn't it? Can you use these motions as evidence?
I suppose you can bring up, like the judge with all her wisdom and experience has already said this is crap.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the judges, they're just to keep order, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. It's the people that make the judgment.
So I think that a lot of this can go into evidence. And even if it can't, then the evidence that Wright has put forward, because at this point, there is nothing new that he can present that he hasn't presented already that's going to back his case up. It's not like, unless somehow he gets the keys to the Tulip Trust Fund, whatever it is, unless something of that scale happens, there's nothing new he's got to argue with.
Exactly. He needs some proof that he has the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But then if he does prove that he has the Bitcoin, he's got to pay half of it because he just proved that he did do it. That's the situation he's put himself in, is that if he doesn't have the keys and can't unlock it, then he's a liar and he's full of crap, and he owes someone 500,000 Bitcoin, but he owes them that in fiat because he hasn't got any Bitcoin. Or, he's telling the truth, he did create it, but then he owes half of it, doesn't he? He's just really shot himself in the foot by claiming he's Satoshi and he's, the mastermind behind Bitcoin. He's really fucked himself.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word there.
Yeah, and every step he takes to try and prove himself, it just undermines his argument further. Whatever happens in this case, he will come out of it, and his cronies will come out of it saying that he created Bitcoin. It's going to happen. Whatever happens, he will stick to his story.
Yeah.
But even if he wins, it doesn't necessarily prove he created Bitcoin, because this is not the I created Bitcoin case. This is the I mined a load of Bitcoin really early into a wallet and it's mine, not yours. That's the crux of this case.
Exactly.
So unless the judge makes a call and says, this proves you created this asset, whatever it is, this isn't the case to prove that.
No, exactly. He's got no reason or need to prove it in this case. He just needs to prove that he did or didn't mine it with Dave Kleiman.
So yeah, that's where we are at the moment. So he has failed massively to try and stop it going to court. He could have done himself much more damage in the process. And hopefully we go to court in January 2021 for the jury trial where, this will all come out plus more, hopefully.
Oh, I hope more comes out of it. Because you know what? He is just a fucking giant soaked tissue, this man. He is useless, this man. He's just full of shit. I don't think anyone can trust anything he says. He's like that snake car dealer, that's selling, he's bought wrecks of cars, been totally written off. He's patched them up a little bit, but inside they're still damaged. The doors are rusting on the inside out. And he's just saying, oh, it's a brand new car, never been a crash. That is Craig Wright.
Yeah. And what I don't understand is that you've got people who have seen the smashed up car coming in, they've seen him refurbish it, they've seen him do the spray job, and they've gone, that's a new car.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't understand these people who, it's just reinforcement of belief, isn't it? You get these crypto cults, and they ignore the facts that don't suit them, and they believe the things that people say. But I don't understand why people get so obsessed over a cryptocurrency and over a person who doesn't know they exist, wouldn't say hello to them on the street, doesn't care about them, but they still love him to bits. And I don't understand it.
Yeah, they worship him like he's Jesus. I'm not going to say it's all BSV people, because it's not. But it's like, these people just think he is like crypto Jesus. Just because he claims he made Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But he's got no proof he does. And, it's like Jesus saying, I'm Jesus. Until he proved that you can make water into wine, or spread one fish between 1,000 people, then it's bullshit.
And you can't say, well, I will turn water into wine when I'm good and ready. You're just gonna have to wait for me to do it.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works. You can't.
No, exactly.
You can't kind of drag people along on that premise, because eventually they will desert you. But anyway, I think we've got a very special guest booked in where we're going to have a nice long discussion of the man, the myth, the legend that is Craig Wright in a few weeks' time. But for now, that is the latest on one of his many court cases, and so we'll keep you updated as more of it rolls in. That's everything for this week. So we hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Alex, thanks for being here once again.
Thanks for having me again, man. Stay tuned and have an awesome weekend.
Yeah, we'll speak to you soon, guys. Ta-ta.
Ciao, bye.